He wants his greenie.
Hey, everybody.
Hey,
This is
don't.
Aletha Williams here, and I am coming not live, but recorded because we wanted to make sure that we were saying the right stuff before we have broadcast, right? No, just kidding. Just to give time for both myself and this beautiful couple time to actually have a deep conversation and to have it in the safety of COVID in our home and schedule our time, we decided to record this. So without further ado, please let me introduce Jan and Bruce Nelms, and they live in Duncan on Victoria Island. So without
Vancouver
further
Island.
ado,
Vancouver
Vancouver.
Island.
I said Victoria, right? Vancouver
You did,
Island.
darling.
Yes.
Victoria's on the island. You're half right. But they don't own the island.
Oh, that's good. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about history here. No, I'm only kidding. So, welcome, Jan and Bruce. Thank you so much for joining us and participating in this couples month about talking about relationship and what are the pros and cons of having the relationship and how you yourselves have survived your relationship. So, without further ado, Janet and Bruce would like to make a statement first, and then we're going to dive right into our first question.
I'm
Bruce?
just
Okay.
going to step out
Okay.
briefly while Bruce is reading
Yeah,
to give Charlie his phone.
Yeah,
Oh, hi,
Charlie's
Charlie.
Charlie
needs
needs his
whimpering.
greenie.
So,
Hang on.
so Aletha and everyone who's watching and listening, Jan and I would like to preface this discussion with two important notes before we begin. First, just as two snowflakes just as no two snowflakes are the same, each person is a unique being, and thus no two people in relationship have the same experience as others, even if they come back from similar backgrounds. Indeed, what works for one couple may not work for another. Jan and I have been together for 27 years and married for 23 of those years. During this period, we have gradually built up an understanding of what works and what does not for each of us and in our relationship. And this all largely through trial and error, and not without the expected and unexpected growing pains that come with being human. That brings us to the second point. We are not perfect and indeed experience many of the failings that fall upon a person and relationship through time. After all, this is what comes with being a human being, with all its foibles and peccadillos. That said, we are also generally optimistic in our view of life and what we expect of others and ourselves.
Beautiful. I want to tell the audience just how much I love this couple. I fell in love with Bruce, and then Bruce introduced me to his wife, which I in turn fell in love with her. And that just talks volume in itself. The fact that Bruce had the liberty to talk to me, because in the experience of being in the military and in the Navy, especially, a female officer in the Navy, for me, my experience was, oh, I can't talk to the male officers, but the ship was in majority male, and here I am, a female, but the spouses, sure, were definitely telling their spouses, don't do this and don't do that. So when I met Bruce in my job as a military officer, and the fact that he had the liberty and freedom to just be himself and introduce himself to me and welcome me into the command speaks volume to the marriage, and it speaks volume about trust. So without further ado, I want to ask Jan the question though. Jan, you, I believe when you guys got together, trust became the foundation of your marriage. Can you expand a little bit about how you guys came to that part? I mean, 23 years married and 27 years together, that speaks volume.
Oh, well, I think first of all, when I first met Bruce, I had a very good friend who already knew him, and I trusted her evaluation and her encouragement to start with. I met Bruce's two young daughters, and before sort of meeting them, though, I observed him at I think it was a church event at him with his daughters, and it was lovely. So those things are all part of trust. observing and noticing how a person is with others, not just yourself. So that's a part of the basis of who they are. And I guess after that, I mean, you just kind of slowly get together and get to know each other, and you kind of observe things, and you go with an open mind. First of all, you don't go with a critique or challenging mind, because when you do that, then it gets really hard to see things that aren't there.
Yeah,
That can happen. So Bruce has never given me reason not to trust him. Yeah. And if there were ever any little things that came to the border of that, it was about opening up and being able to talk about it, or just saying, well, that's not such a big deal, it's okay. And just leaving flexibility and openness, and that has I think served both of us well.
Yeah.
That I think we can both trust each other. We can make silly jokes about things and know that that's not what we really mean. It's just a silly joke. We're both very good at throwing off, as you probably know, throwing flippant comments. And I think part of that joking behavior allows for resiliency. So being able to joke about things and not to take yourself too seriously. And that's one of the things that I feel very strongly about in terms of our children. Don't take yourself too seriously. It's okay not to be perfect. It's okay to have this and that feeling. It's okay. Yeah, particularly not to be perfect and have it noticed. That's okay. Yeah. That's who you are, and you're lovely. And it's okay. Don't take yourself so seriously. You'll find life works a lot better. So in terms of both family and a couple, I think that, that's sort of, that's maybe the brunt of it, the basis of it.
Yeah, Bruce, what do you think? Don't say what she says.
No, I would never use her words. Goodness.
No, we're both very different people. That's the other piece. So, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I know how to spell, so that's a good point.
I was really good at spelling. I always got 100%.
See what just happened? Don't drink and laugh at the same time on a video.
How did our relationship move forward? I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with a sense of respect, and by that I mean, Jan doesn't do things that I don't respect, and I don't know whether that comes from similar backgrounds or it just comes from who she is. But over time, you learn to trust that when you bring something up and to talk about, that she's not going to go off the deep end. And likewise, when she brings something up, I'm not going to go off the deep end. So it's a mutual respect that allows for that trust to grow.
Yeah. So you guys came to a point where you learn how to fight fear. So what were some of the agreements that came into that discussion about how to have discussions, or I don't want to say fight, because that's what society will say. If we have a disagreement, it's a fight, but it doesn't always have to be a fight. But when you have a disagreement, what were some of the rules that came with that?
Yeah, I don't know if we ever really talked about rules, but one of the things that that I grew to know through not so much in Jan's relationship, but in previous relationships and with my family, is like, in general, we don't swear at each other and we don't drag each other down. No, of course, in the heat of the moment, there's always stuff that you say and do, but it's not permanent, and it's not deeply felt. That's just the emotion you're feeling at that time. So I don't think we ever really talked about rules of fighting or whatever.
No, I think what we do, though, I know certainly what I do, I can be very loud, and so can Bruce.
Yeah.
Is, if things get too escalated and too loud, it's time to step back, go away, go into your own corner for a while, maybe address it the next day. A good night's sleep does miracles, and often thoughts and ideas come to your mind. I find when I wake up in the morning, especially now, actually, I don't know if it's something to do with old age or what, but well, I'm over 70. Come on.
Beautifully 70, over 70.
But lots of thoughts as you're waking in the morning tend to come to mind. And I've actually asked Bruce to wake me a bit earlier because it's exhausting, some of the processes I go through before I wake up. And I got tired of them after 3 or 4 days, mornings in a row of all this complex stuff that I had going on that was not necessarily to do with Bruce, but just stuff. But anyway, the old adage that most of our parents told us, go and have a good night's sleep and we'll address it tomorrow, is very, very real. And it really helps to get perspective and to allow the gods to put thoughts into your head that may be helpful,
And for me, Aletha, I mean, I grew up in a family where, the males were not supposed to cry and not supposed to show emotions and all that sort of stuff, the classic thing. And it took me, I had a really loud interaction with Luke when he was, I don't know, 16 or 17 or something like that. And it was hurtful for him and for me. And I went and did some work with a men's group. And it allowed me to accept the fact that I can be angry and still be a reasonable person, and I can cry, and I can, I think anger was the biggest emotion that wasn't allowed at our house because it was considered a bad emotion. And of course, we know now that emotions aren't bad; they're just emotions. And so, joining the men's group and working through a lot of that has allowed me to have a much better sense of what is an emotion and what is really going on, and to differentiate the two, and then deal with those emotions in a more mature manner.
And I just like to add to that I must say I'm immensely proud of Bruce for having done that, and that he can talk about it. Many men won't, and and they don't consider that kind of stuff. And it's, to be able to acknowledge your own challenges and to be able to go and seek help for them is really very important. And I think, it doesn't have to be something you do together. This can be something private that you do with a group that is just you and that group, and probably better, because then you can open up more freely and get support and whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that particularly men, a lot of men do not feel they can do. And honest to God, that's courage.
Yes.
That's admirable. That's respect when a man is able to do that. And it makes a big difference in a couple, in a relationship, to be able to recognize those things. And, whether the other party thinks that's so or not, you're doing that work for yourself, and to be, able to manage things better. And so,
how did you guys work through that? Because that kind of brings up that question, that the question about spiritual growth. When one person is at one level of their growth process, and the other one may not even know what spiritual growth is, and they're just stuck in their old-fashioned ways and are refusing to do anything, or they are already done with the process. When you were going through that, Bruce, how did you present that to Jan, in letting her know that you're working on your spiritual growth, on an area that you would like to improve on to bring your best self out in the marriage? How did you have that interaction?
Interestingly, I mean, I had gone to the sort of precursor to this men's group sometime before. So that was 2015. That was April of 2015 that I did a weekend workshop with the men's group. And then in September is when I had of that year, I had the blow up with Luke. And I just said, well, Jan knew I was working on it because every Wednesday after, evening I was at the men's group. So she darn well knew what I was doing. And I said, I've got to go to the men's group and work through this. And, I was steady with it for about 3 years. I mean, it didn't happen overnight.
Yeah. And as for spiritual growth, I don't think it's something that happens. One is in it and one isn't. I think it's an ongoing process at different levels. And whether you're aware of that being the name you put on what's happening or not is somewhat irrelevant. It exists. It happens as, and having challenges often helps to move that forward even, but I think it just is ongoing. It's just a process that's there that we have no control over.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. We don't have control over that.
I have great admiration for your age group.
Are you saying that we're old?
Let me finish. He's the same age as me. Come on.
Let me finish. I think your generation, the marriage lasts longer because you guys have more resiliency about sticking and committing to the marriage than what I'm seeing in my generations and then the generations to come is this commitment. And at some point between having disagreements and, oh, I don't want to be with this person or I want to be with this person, you came to a point where you knew you're going to commit through thick and thin with this person. But there's some requirements with that. So what are some requirements that are showing up in saying, I'm going to commit with this person? What are some requirements, or not even requirements, but some virtues or belief system that should exist in knowing that person, you're willing to stay with that person for the rest of your life?
Well, even though both of us had prior marriages, when we got married, from my perspective, Jan can speak for herself, but from my perspective, it was a permanent thing. Like, I don't have a sense, unless she's an axe murderer or something, I'm not, I'm really not interested in meeting somebody else and being somebody else's husband. I mean, and that sounds a little flippant, but it says till death do us part, and there would have to be something pretty darn big to change that. And I also think that the whole idea of respect is so important. And so I respect that Jan is a good person. And I've learned that over the years. I mean, I went into the relationship thinking she was a good person, but as time goes on, there's nothing that makes me think otherwise. And that I think that has more to do with it than we often think, is that respect for each other, and that when push comes to shove, Jan's going to do the right thing. She may not agree with my view of it, and sometimes I will say things and she'll go, "Oh, I never thought of that," or "I didn't." I find that a lot is when we're talking, Jan will say something about a situation, like something you read in the news, and I'll go, "Oh, I never really thought of that," and likewise she does the same, and that's a part of the exploration. Oops,
What happened?
I've got an X out of this. There we go. That's better. Okay. There was just something came up on my screen.
Oh.
So yeah, that's mine.
Jan, what do you think? What are some virtues that you are seeing in your marriage that you would like to let us know about, besides respect and unconditional positive regard, which is what I'm hearing? I hear two big ones that shows up.
I think that trust, of course, is always the big word. It's very overused, but it is a big word and a big thought idea. But along with trust goes, we are all frail human beings and we make mistakes. And I think that, again, don't take yourself too seriously. It's okay. It's okay. This too will pass. This too you will get through. And you go beyond the details of behaviors throughout your marriage, unless they become a persistent, constant thing. I left my axe murder traits behind when I met Bruce. I didn't carry them into our marriage. So, I decided he wouldn't allow that. So
Yeah, Aletha, it's good to have a training husband and a training wife. It makes the next marriage a lot better.
This is true. Yes. Anyway, yeah. So I guess, I'm walking into it. It's like taking a university course. You start the course and you have your basics, right? You've taken your basics, your pre courses that you have to take before you take this upper level course, and you go into this upper level course, which is that next marriage, and you've got your basics established, and you go with a learning process, not discounting your own emotions, that's fine, but also that it's all a learning process, and trusting that this person that you're with, that you've committed yourself to, and who is the father of your children, is a good person, a honorable person. It's the person you're going to be with, and if there are little glitches along the way, you just, that's okay. Because if you had perfection,
Why, she'd be dull if she was perfect.
Yeah, wouldn't life be dull? Like, what would you do if you didn't change your mind suddenly and get the old boy all messed up? Jan, would you stop one way or two? Stop. If you didn't keep changing your mind or keep doing something differently or anyway, whatever.
So how do you guys keep things spicy in the relationship?
Spicy.
Well,
yes, spicy. That's the only word I can use.
So it's interesting. Like, we're at this phase where, spicy is more a word than action now. But we're at the stage where we like to cuddle and we like to just be with each other, and the sex part of it, it's not critical.
If that's what you meant by spicy.
No, I said spicy.
Okay.
You brought that up.
Okay.
My spicy is watching the birds through the window, is having lots of windows in my house and watching the birds and the trees when I just sit on the couch. That's spicy to me. See, it changes. I get great delight and comfort out of just quietly doing that. Bruce plays his card game quietly. He's very content. The whole tone of the house is content and comfortable and warm.
Actually, Luke is the spice of our life. He comes down sort of once a month, and just the whole place is torn apart, and that's great.
Yeah, and we have 4 or 5 dogs coming.
Yeah, he brings his 4 or 5 dogs with him.
Oh my goodness!
So we at Christmas for 10 days we had 6 dogs in the house.
Okay, that's spicy enough.
Yeah. So there's your spice.
And we've got 4 or 5 more that he's working on training in one of the indoor rooms in our house that I'm supposed to be there to be the assistant. So
yeah.
Let's talk about some gifts that shows up in the marriage. What are some of the gifts that shows up, and you're allowed, of course you're able to express it because he's very accommodating with it. What are some of the gifts that shows up in the marriage that really Bruce likes?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm asking Jan.
You're asking Jan what gifts she brings to me?
Oh, well, talent. What talents? I know she likes to cook, which is beautiful. So what are some of the other beautiful gifts that shows up that Bruce likes? So this is asking how well you know your husband.
Oh, that's the real question. Oh, goodness. I guess just being able to give him space for one thing, because that's really important to Bruce. He likes his quiet time. I get up about an hour, 2 hours, at least 2 hours later than he does. And it's not just because I want to sleep in. It's interesting you should ask that, because I was thinking about that this morning. And I wouldn't change that.
Is that your cat?
No,
No,
that's
that's
Charlie.
Charlie. That's Charlie was sneezing.
Charlie the puppy dog.
He wants his supper. And so he's sneezing to let us know, hey, come on, I know it's 2 hours too early, but I still want my supper.
He just had his greenie, so
Oh, bless
and he's
you,
wondering
Charlie.
what's happening. He hears you there, but he can't really see you.
Oh,
Get up some
hi,
sleep.
Charlie. I miss you.
Come on.
Oh, Ellie does the same thing. She has a bad hip. Hi,
Yeah.
Charlie.
Anyway, I've lost my train of thought now.
No, you were talking about sleeping and waking up different time
early in the
and
morning.
respecting
Oh,
the space.
yeah, because I know Bruce likes that time, and he likes that quiet time and that space for himself.
Yeah.
And so, because I don't work, I'm always in the home.
Yeah.
Bruce works at times, so I have that time and I have that space, and we're both somewhat similar that way. We kind of go into our own thoughts in our own little space, and it's no disrespect for the other or anything like that at all. But we just kind of we both do that, and blessedly we're similar in that way.
Yeah.
We don't have to be chattering all the time. We don't have to be, I won't say acknowledging each other. I mean, acknowledging is an important.
You all the time.
I acknowledge you all the time too, more than you know. You don't even notice it sometimes.
Yes, I do.
But I mean, that's important. I mean, that's another piece is
Okay, Charlie.
remembering, however sort of calm and easy flowing your life may be together, not forgetting to acknowledge the other, because when you start to forget, then there starts to be a little tension. And often we do things knowingly or not to I don't like to use the word impress, because you shouldn't have to impress your partner, but I can think of another one right now, but to just kind of affirm them or have them appreciate you or whatever. We all do things like that. And so to have that acknowledged, and I think when a marriage gets along too far, sometimes couples forget to give that acknowledgement to each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's very, very important always. And even more so when you're just together and work isn't there, because you're not getting that feedback from your workplace and from being out. So I guess I kind of got off on another topic there. But
no,
anyway.
that's just beautiful laid out. But I'm gonna let Bruce answer how well he knows himself and knows what you know about him.
Oh dear.
So the question you asked was, what gifts do I bring to Jan?
And you know that Jan appreciates it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, whenever she doesn't know the answer to the crossword, she asks me, and I can give her the answer.
That's a big piece. He taught me about crosswords, and now I'm just a crazy woman with crosswords.
I still do not like crossword, but because of you, Bruce, I still try.
Oh. Well, Jan is getting good at it, but every now and then I do recognize that I can actually tell her the answer to a crossword question. So that's good. And you were saying that Jan is a good cook, which she is. And she bakes some of the nicest stuff. Like, I've still got scones left. She made scones the other day, and oh my God, they're so good.
Now you guys know my address, right?
It'd be stale, but you know how slow the postal system is. They'd be moldy by the time they got to you. But yeah, I mean, and Jan likes. I wouldn't say she likes to cook, but she does cook and she bakes well. But every now and then, I actually cook a nice dinner for her.
Oh God, does he ever? He's so good. He's got a whole other style from me, and that's cool. Like, our differences are part of what is exciting. You say what's excitement? That's part of it. Is our differences.
Nice. Do you guys still have date nights?
What?
Date nights.
Every night's a date night.
Oh yeah, date nights. What's that? We're on a long-term date, honey.
No, in COVID, it's interesting. COVID is just I'm really happy that Omicron is spreading wide and fast, and we're going to turn this into an endemic instead of a pandemic, and we can get back to being normal human beings, which means going out when you want, and not worrying about people 5 tables over who are yabbering without their masks on, or whatever. I'm getting just tired of it all. I mean, I get out all the time because I work 4 days a week, and so I do get out, and I'm sort of a frontline worker, so I'm interacting with people all the time. So I see all the crazies, and I see 90% of the people that come to where I am are reasonable, and but there's that 10% that are just nutso, and so you and the pandemic just brings them out, I guess. It just brings out the nutty ones.
So I get all the excitement because when he comes home, the first thing I say was, "How was your day?" And I sit quietly and listen. Oh my goodness!
There's something.
Stories.
There's one of the gifts that she brings. She actually listens to me. Nobody else does, but she does.
Sometimes.
And
when she gets tired of it, the dog listens to me. So we're good.
So that brings this question: has the constraints of COVID and Omicron taught you guys? Like the constraint, has it changed anything between the dynamics of how you operate? Because I'm sure you had to work from home several times too, right?
No, I don't think COVID has really impacted us, other than Jan and I can. We can
homebodies.
We're homebodies. We can stay at home.
We're content in our home.
We got a half acre here, so Jan's out in her garden doing that all the time and looking at the sunsets, and I like doing woodwork and little projects around. And Jan has a list of 100 little projects, so I never get done with them.
Work.
Well, I hope it's no climbing is involved anymore, right?
No climbing and no chainsaws.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Who knows each other's love language? Do you know what Jan's love language is? Ooh.
I guess maybe I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, Jan says something that's a good example. Letting the other one know that you recognize them or appreciate them is a good one. That's for her. She likes hearing you say, I so appreciate you baking those scones. And you just lavished over how well she baked. That's a love language where you're telling her, and I'm sure I don't know if that's one of her love language where she appreciates hearing that, but that's an example.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, Jan is very good at keeping my frail ego, buoyed up. Because she's always, saying stuff. I don't do it as much for her, but I do, I do my.
So is that one of your love language, hearing her saying some stuff to you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, appreciating what I do. And yes, I think so.
What's another one, Jan? For him?
Oh, just
see how well you know each other. 23 years.
Just holding me quietly. Just I for me that's really special moments. Just being held quietly and just calmly, and it's like the little the little thing that you can do where your heart speaks to the heart of the other person. And incredibly, I can't remember who put that forth, without one of Dr. Phil's things or something, I don't know, or one of his guests, but it's incredibly powerful. And, when there are moments that maybe have been a little bit difficult or something, I don't do it a lot because it should be for very special occasions, but you just stand together, you put one heart is on the other, and your heart talks, and you just stand quietly for a few minutes and silently. And it is so incredibly powerful to do that. And if there's a love language, that is it right there.
Yes.
That's the most powerful of the love languages right there, is doing that. And again, just listening and hearing. And, when Bruce feels comfortable and okay to talk about things that hurt him or make him feel teary, I mean, for me, that's to be able to listen and to be present for that is so powerful.
Yeah.
To just embrace that, like those vulnerable moments, the vulnerable feelings, those are very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Bruce?
Yeah, as Jan is talking, yeah, it's those moments when we don't do it nearly as often as we ought to, but dancing together, and that, which is a bit of the heart together
Hmm.
that Jan was talking about.
You
And
dance?
A little bit.
a little bit.
Yeah, waltz, just an old-fashioned old guy, old lady dance. Yeah.
I'm just messing with Bruce.
Oh yeah, he's a good partner. I'll
Okay,
let
I'll
you
remember
borrow him
that.
just for 5 minutes one day when you're over this way,
Yes, indeed. You owe me a dance.
but only 5.
Yeah, so and like I really like some every night. Jan really likes sunsets, and our property has the nicest sunsets. You can see the mountains from our property. And every now and then Jan will, like yesterday. Yeah, yesterday I was at
yesterday.
work and she phones me and I'm looking at the sunset already. And she says,
Uh-huh.
"You got to see the sunset." And it was just one of those moments. I'm already looking at the sunset. It's just
Beautiful.
Yeah, amazing.
that
And he does
feeling
that
of
to me too.
that feeling of warmth is just, because
Yeah.
it's connection. Yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
and that it may not be much,
Hey,
but
Charlie,
it
that's
feels
you.
feels like it's
you.
as Jan said, it's an intimate thing that we share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about how do you guys show up in public together? In my failed experience of a marriage, he would actually make fun of me, like jokingly to other people to try to actually make me angry. And so that experience is not good for me. But how do you guys show up together in public?
Oh goodness. I mean, we're very together, but we also joke.
Hmm.
Again, it's don't take
But
yourself too
but
seriously.
it's
It's
not,
okay.
Yeah.
not
It's not
really, it's
nasty
not a
joking.
nasty drag down,
Yeah.
it's not that kind of
You
humor.
know,
Well,
and I can roll
yeah,
my
you
eyes.
sincerely knows it's not to harm you, but when
Yeah.
you know from my perspective that person is doing it just intentionally
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
hurt.
No,
Yeah.
I would never hopefully never do that to Jan.
So what are some nevers you would never do in public?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it would never be the intention that either of us have, and we both know that of each other. And if it was something that was hurtful, you kind of hold it to talk about in private later. It doesn't blow the stack off the volcano.
Yeah. So never curse at each other. Don't, if you have some disagreement in public, hold it until you get home. What are some other
Yeah.
don'ts in publics? Some things that you
Um,
you shouldn't say or do about your wife.
I'm always aware of where Jan is when we're
Mm.
out. And I think and it's not,
Because I'll get lost.
no, yeah, because she'll get lost. No, it's not, it's not having to know, it's not a possessive thing
No,
at
no.
all. It's just, I'm aware of where she is and who she is. And, it's kind of like if I thought there was something that she wasn't happy about, I could then comfortable with, I could say, okay, do we want to blow this pop stand or what's,
Yeah.
and it's kind of supportive in that way.
Yeah.
It's not smothering. Like I
Yeah.
don't look at it. It's just I'm aware of Jan and I'm aware of
Awareness.
what's
Yeah.
going on, and
Mhm.
yeah. So
Love it.
we're not clingy types, really. I don't think.
Oh no, we
No.
can go off to opposite ends of the store and just wander about
Yeah.
quite comfortably. We don't have to be
Yeah.
on top of each other, and
All right.
that's part of the built-up trust, I think.
Let's see how well you guys know each other. Okay,
Uh-oh.
Bruce. What is Jan's favorite color? Come on, that's the simplest answer.
Favorite color.
Ooh.
Of course, she's going to tell me it's something completely different, but I'm going to say it's green because she's a gardener. So there you go.
Well, that's a cool choice for a cool reason. I love that. I'm not going to counter that. That's beautiful. You even had a reason for it. I love it.
Jan, what's your favorite color? I want to.
Bruce's is blue.
Bruce's is blue. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
And it's
Mm,
not just because of the military.
okay.
He wears
Bru-
a lot of blue and he looks good. Both of you do.
Yeah,
You've got your
thank
blues
you.
on too today.
Bruce, now list 2 of Jan's favorite music.
Oh, we know that one.
So,
It's on every night at bedtime.
well, that's
You're
the
helping.
Stingray Spa.
Stingray Spa, but no, I mean, she likes, like, if you want Les Mis as an example,
Oh yeah.
she
yeah.
loves Les
Musicals.
Mis. Musicals, they're
For
just
sure.
just beautiful.
Mm.
I think I would say Stingray because that's what we go to sleep to at night.
Oh,
But
nice.
also musicals. Those are
Okay.
Jan's favorite music genres.
Yeah.
How about you,
Specifically the
Jan?
spa, because Stingray has a lot of different
Yeah.
ones, but the
Yeah.
spa.
That's
Yeah.
all. I like
the
that.
spa.
How about you, Jan? What are Bruce's 2 of his favorite music?
Well, I know he loves musicals because he'll sing to them. So we both share that. I think that he likes sort of hymnal things too.
Yes.
Yeah, How Great Thou Art.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful
Bruce
song.
likes to. I think there was a lot of church and religious components to his life, and so those are very powerful parts for him. Not so much for me, but it's still fun because Bruce loves that and comes out, and he's got a very good voice, as you probably know, and he'll come out belting some things, and especially if he doesn't think I'm listening and he's watching something, he'll go to the computer, when I'm busy with Dr. Phil or something like that. He'll go and sit on the computer, and what he's brought up is music, is people singing.
Nice.
So yeah, individual singers,
Okay.
sort of verging on the classical.
So if you guys are in a long car drive across Canada or even across the US, what are some of the selections that you would pick?
What or what?
Some
Some
of the selections we
selections.
pick for music.
Oh, for music.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I'll tell you, I went across the country, not with Jan, but with my 2 daughters before Jan came along. And so they would have been 6 and 4 or something like that. And we had a Colm Wilkinson album from a lot of different musicals. And we wore it wasn't a CD, it was a tape. We wore the tape out.
yeah.
And the girls, they both still remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh,
Yeah.
So-
But I mean, music, I like all genres, some things of all genres. But it probably now tends more towards not to older music. So like Jackie Evancho, there's a beautiful album that she just put out in 2021, and it is gorgeous. And it's a compilation of songs from like The Greatest Showman on Earth and those kind of musicals, and it's just beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, we both love that. We share that, and it's a very nice thing to watch, when we're hunkered in and we're just sitting there watching something together and in our room.
What's Jan's favorite genre of movies, Bruce?
Interesting. Well, I know what mine is, but she lets me watch just about whatever I want. So I'm always watching detective movies, but she likes like historical, like Victoria, like the movie about Queen Victoria.
Yeah.
And nature and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well,
And
Jen,
she's very
Bruce
documented.
gave the answer for his already, so I can't even ask you.
What's that?
I already gave the answer to mine, so there you go.
Oh yeah.
What was the last movie you guys watched together? Like you guys really wanted to watch it together?
Well, we watched The Greatest Showman on Earth. I think that was the last one we watched. Or no, we went to see Sing 2. Sing 2. We went with Luke to the movie theater and watched Sing 2.
Nice. Let me ask, this is the final question. What are some memorable moments that you would like to share, and what came out, what growth or something that came out of it that's just so memorable that you want to pass on for a recommendation for couples? Memorable moments and the
Well, I
lessons
think
learned.
first meeting Bruce and seeing him like that at the reception after the church service, and how he was with his children, the
Mm.
way it was so tender. And when I went and spoke to him, and how he sort of came, he left space for me to build a relationship with them, a sort of first meeting kind of relationship, and how he was with them, and very allowing, and there was a lovingness. And
Mm.
it's an image that I that often comes to me. And however difficult things may be, and there's been some challenges with the girls, they're in a difficult place right now, things are difficult, that always comes back to me. And
Mm.
that's how I think of the girls, and that's how I think of Bruce and the girls. And it was such a touching, beautiful moment for me. As I say, it's something that's never left
Mm.
my cinematography inside. It's always there. And so I always you know that will come back at some time, and I have every confidence in it. They're going through their own stuff. They're needing to separate from family, separate whatever, as
Mhm.
all kids do. My kids did. And
Yeah.
you know what? They did. There were challenges. They were scrappy. Things were a little nasty. They threw nasty,
Mm.
nasty comments and
Yeah.
stuff at me as the mother. But you know what? I have a lovely relationship with both my girls. Jackie calls when she needs to talk about something and to share, and I feel very honored and respected for that. That
Mm.
she feels she's able to. I feel like I did my job right. Lucas calls about everything and anything, and knows that our
Yes.
home
Yeah.
is always here for him, that he can come and do his things. And step by step, he's become more and more thoughtful and considerate of what we need
Mhm.
along the way. And so, yeah, I mean, um, that was really pivotal for me. And it comes up, and it informs me even when things are difficult.
Love it.
Yeah, I have to say that it's interesting the times that I remember we were at the Chemainus Theater, which I don't know if you know, but they have supper beforehand, like a buffet dinner,
Mm.
and then you go and watch a show. And I remember they have a pianist there who
Oh, right.
plays the piano while you're eating.
Huh.
And the
That was right.
first time we were there doing that, I asked Jen to dance, and we were the only people dancing in the whole place.
Oh wow.
And it was just beautiful, and
It
I felt
was.
so close to Jan. And I didn't really pay much attention to what else was going on. We were just there in a moment.
Mm.
And then there was, I think we were seeing Les Mis actually. And afterwards we went and saw Les Mis. That whole night was just magic.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Or
that was
Mhm.
precious. Yeah, that
do you
was
want to
nice.
you want to share any more? Just one more.
Oh, goodness.
Well, it's
Just every time he comes home from work after work,
Mm.
it's just, I know that if he's late, that something's held him up, and that's okay. I have no reason to be concerned. He'll be back
Mm.
when he's back. If Bruce is late or something's gotten away, he'll always call that midday call when he goes on his break. I mean, I've come to expect and appreciate them, but with flexibility to it, and it's always nice if the call didn't come. I knew he was busy with something. There was no mistrust or anything
Right.
ever. So I mean, actually, I'm very grateful for that, because I think for a lot of partners, there's mistrust if things don't go as was planned out. And
Yeah.
and I, as you ask those questions, I realize I don't ever feel that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting, Aletha, because what you were talking about, dissing your partner and that kind of thing. But Luke and I, uh, as he's our grandson, so we raised him, and we always tease Jan a lot. And so, I don't know if you remember, but she's managed to eat quite a number of crockery butter dishes. And we always talk to her, if something
It's a family joke.
falls on the floor and there's a chip out of it, we say, "Oh, Jan's eating the crockery again," but she's really good with it. Like she doesn't ever seem to get mad at us teasing
It's
the
not
crap
taking
out
yourself
of her.
too seriously.
Yeah.
It's a reason for
when
the
it's
family to laugh.
Well, you
Stories
know
are
when it's
key.
a lovable joke. You know when it's
Yeah.
lovable. You know when it's not.
Well, you've got to have some things like that
Yeah.
to leave for the grandchildren. Even if you're not going to have any grandchildren other than Lucas, none of them are going to have more children.
I
You
wouldn't
got to
count
leave
Claire out
something.
yet.
So that's our job as moms, is to do things that are crazy, that are corny, that are stupid, so they can talk about it and pass it on and laugh.
We definitely, my kids enjoyed your sense of humor, and Duncan and Conrad, they still call Bruce Aunt Bruce and Jan Uncle Jan. So as a matter of fact, I would bring him in here, but no, let's just finish up. We have 9 minutes to finish up on the hour. And I just want to give you guys the opportunity to say if you have any advice for people who are starting out in their first stage of their marriage, and really trying to work together, but sometimes there's miscommunication where you feel, do I really need to be in this marriage? And how to get your mind and what you need to work on into frame to a commitment that turns out into a long-lasting marriage like yourselves.
Well, I guess, a lot of people say that relationships are 50-50, but I actually think it's more like 100-100. So if you're not giving 100% all the time, why would you expect the other person to give 100% all the time? And giving only 50% of yourself leaves a lot to be desired,
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing, like when, and I think a lot of that has to do with we actually, in this day and age, we think that it's not that the world owes us something, but we don't have to put it all out there, and we expect to have something back. And I guess in relationship, I think for me, I know that if I'm not putting out 100%, that I'm not engaged like I should be. I guess that's what, and because if you're only giving half of yourself, then who are you giving the other half to?
Yeah.
Well, the other piece of that is that you do as you do because that's who you are. Not for pats on the back and rewards and acknowledgments. You do it that's just the person that you are. So you just, if you're doing it for reward, then right off the get-go, you've got problems.
Yeah, you're going to be disappointed if you think if you think there's going to be a reward, because that's not how the world is made up.
And I think that's really, really hard, because often when couples have challenges and are fighting, they'll say, well, I did this and that, and all he can do is blah, blah, blah. Well, so what? You're being who you are, and the other thing, of course, is what I keep saying is, don't take yourself too seriously, and open up conversation when things have calmed down a bit. If there's been a spat, give it a little bit of space, and then sit down together and talk together and open with your feelings from within, how that has hurt you, not what they've done to you, but how you have felt.
Yeah.
And that's, kind of a classic kind of counseling thing, is, how did you feel? I don't want to hear about what the other person did, but how did that make you feel? And doing it when you're calm, not trying to do it at the moment of escalation, because we all go off the handle. We're all guilty of that, when we're feeling off, so always, if there's something that's really bothering you, find a quiet time and quiet moment together where you can calmly talk about it. Don't let it sit and linger.
Love it.
Yeah, and interestingly, my mother taught me. My mother was an out there person. She was just who she was, and she didn't really think much about what she was doing or saying because she was just, I'm me.
Yeah.
And Jan is like that too. I mean, that's something I appreciate about her. Is like when she goes for a walk with the dog, it's a 15-minute walk. But when Jan goes, it's an hour walk because she's always talking to the neighbors and the other dogs and the other cats and whoever else is around. And that's because that's who Jan is. And that's a wonderful thing. I mean,
you're getting an awful lot like me. You do that too.
I know that's the scary part. So the scary part is we start answering each other's questions now, and without even like waiting. And I'm now doing things that Jan did, and I thought was kind of odd like 20 years ago, and she's doing the same with me. It's terrible.
Absolutely love it. Well, guys, I think you cinched it. You closed out this interview with a few things that, if you would allow me to point out, that I'm taking from the conversation with, would you mind if I say it? Well, Jan, I absolutely appreciate, I think it showed up many times, holding space for each other and not taking yourself so seriously showed up quite a lot in your conversation. And Bruce, allowing yourself to be vulnerable and knowing, that, it's okay to show your emotions and to also communicate with the other person, with your other half, seems to show up a lot. And in closing, that I learned from both of you, it's just that this space, this unconditional positive regard is just so beautiful that sometimes that unconditional positive regard starts mimicking the other person, where you're doing things that you didn't think that was okay. So I absolutely enjoyed the conversation. Would you like to say anything else before we leave? I absolutely appreciate your time, and I know Charlie's hungry, but thank you so much, and I miss and love both of you.
Yes, well, as always, Aletha, come and visit. We're happy to have you, and bring all the kidlets and whatever.
Well, thank you, guys.
And I might have to sleep on a couch, but we'll find a space where there's always room in our house.
Yeah, we've got a basement and an attic, so
Well,
if you knew, the basement is a crawl space. So
oh my goodness, Duncan would love that. That's the number one thing these days. Wow. Well, thank you. And have a great, be safe and have a great weekend, rest of the weekend and the rest of the week. And I think Charlie says his best. Charlie says, let's go.
Yeah, love you lots.
Love you. Bye-bye.